Author behind more than 20 books. He's also an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, so much so that he's become a target of the MAGA base. From online smears to kidnapping and even death threats, the MAGA hate has become so dangerous that he's had to cancel all in-person appearances on his new book tour for the safety of both himself and his fans. Yes, I'm talking about the one and only Don Winslow, who joins me now.
This is not normal. When an American author has to cancel his own book tour because people are openly calling for his kidnapping and assassination, we are not in heated political debate territory anymore. We are in something darker. Don Winslow isn't some fringe activist. He's a best-selling novelist who's been criticizing Donald Trump since 2015. And now, as his new book drops, the MAGA machine responds not with counter-arguments, but with threats. So when we ask, is MAGA trying to assassinate this anti-Trump author? That's not clickbait. That's a reflection of the climate Trump has helped create. This isn't left versus right, it's truth versus intimidation. And if you believe the path forward is built on progress and inclusion, hit that subscribe button. Let's make this community the strongest voice for democracy online.
Author behind more than 20 books. He's also an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, so much so that he's become a target of the MAGA base. From online smears to kidnapping and even death threats, the MAGA hate has become so dangerous that he's had to cancel all in-person appearances on his new book tour for the safety of both himself and his fans. Yes, I'm talking about the one and only Don Winslow, who joins me now. Don, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
You've been an outspoken critic of Donald Trump since 2015, and as you and I both know very well, anyone who uses their platform to speak out against Trump faces hate, faces threats, faces all sorts of negative remarks online and in the real world. Right now, it feels kind of different for a lot of people, and you've said this yourself. Talk to me about the threats that you've been receiving recently, and why is it different to what you've received before?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I've received threats for years, right? I wrote about the Mexican drug cartels, for instance, and they weren't always pleased about that. I got threats from them, and then since 2015, the threats have been coming from the American right wing. Now, I have a book that dropped yesterday, just came out yesterday. I'm supposed to be on a book tour right now, but we had more substantive sorts of threats than we've had in the past that we have to take seriously. They've said such things as they want to kidnap and rape me. They have advocated my assassination. I don't feel that it's right for me to expose other people to that threat, by appearing in public. So we've had to shut things down and do things virtually. So there you go. Those are the times we live in.
Those are the horrific times we live in. When you had to cancel these in-person appearances on your book tour, you said, and I quote, "I accept that we live in a nation that is divided politically. I do not accept and will never accept for anyone to ever threaten or resort to violence to achieve their political positions or to silence anyone." Do you think political violence has become the right's MO? How much of that can be attributed to Donald Trump?
Well, listen, let's take him at his word. He has advocated violence. He has acted violently. He has been dismissive. He has encouraged violence against people. So I attribute a lot of it to it. Now, look, there's more of a reason behind this, right? I've put out these anti-Trump videos that have had hundreds of millions of views over the past years. They don't want these videos on, particularly coming up into an election year. We have never taken a penny of money. All of the expenses for producing these things comes out of pocket, and that comes from book sales. So if you want to shut the videos down, you can shut the book sales down. And one way to shut the book sales down is to shut the appearances down. Yeah. So it's not just these sort of random, whack job threats. There's a rhyme behind this reason.
I mean, we saw recently the attack on Ilhan Omar at a town hall event, and Trump's reaction was not to try and calm the situation, but to suggest she's a fraud and that maybe she staged the attack on herself.
Certainly, just as they accused the two people killed in Minnesota of being, quote, domestic terrorists. But this is nothing new. This has been the fascist playbook forever. They are always trying to convince us that we didn't see what we saw. Go back to January 6th. Now they're trying to convince us that didn't happen. It's right out of 1984. We're not at war with Eurasia. We're at war with East Asia. Oh, no, we're at war with East Asia and not Eurasia. So there's nothing new about this. It's lie after lie after lie.
You mentioned the F word, Don, fascist. You have been calling Donald Trump a fascist for a long time, well before his return to office. Many people thought people like you and me were being melodramatic, hyperbolic, by saying the F word years ago. But here we are, Trump's second term, masked goons killing American citizens on the streets. The fascism is in plain sight. Did you ever think we'd see two Trump administrations, the return of Trump? And did you think the second term would be as bad as it is? Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism.
Yeah, let me answer the first question. No, I did not, particularly after January 6th. I have said that he should have been let out of the White House in handcuffs before the sun set on January 6th, but naively, I thought that was certainly the end of his political career. Having said that, did I think that a second Trump administration would be as bad as it is? Absolutely. We've been saying this since 1915. Look, since that guy came down the escalator, he's been telling us who he is. Let's believe him. Remember how he started with attacks on those 5 kids, the Central Park 5. He called for their executions. He has never apologized, by the way. Then what was it? The birther lie. Then the election lie. Then January 6th. Lie after lie after lie. And also the effort to suppress opposing voices.
Yes. And those opposing voices, they are not as loud as you and I would like them to be. Let me ask you a question I posed to you back on my MSNBC show when we last spoke years ago. You are a storyteller, a master storyteller. You're an expert at putting together narratives on the page, on screen. You mentioned the videos you've done anti-Trump. And in a kind of dark, dishonest, disingenuous, bad faith way, so are conservatives in this country. Donald Trump is a storyteller. Republicans are very good at pushing their narratives and messages. Why do you think Democratic Party, quote unquote, liberal messaging is so bad? If you were in charge of the Democratic Party, what messages would you be pushing right now?
Well, plain speaking. Let's speak in plain, tough language. Let's call a fascist a fascist. Let's call a liar a liar. I think one problem with, generally speaking, us, progressives, Democrats, whatever you want to call us, is that we try to be so civil, so nice, and that's not the game the other team is playing. We keep bringing spoons to a knife fight, you know, and that's not going to work, and it hasn't worked.
How much of the decline of the Democratic Party do you think falls on its leadership, especially Chuck Schumer in the Senate, Hakeem Jeffries in the House? Do you think they're the right leaders for this moment?
I don't. I think we need people who are willing to play harder and play tougher.
Why do you think they don't play harder and tougher?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Speaking of Democrats, we got to talk about what's happening in Congress right now. The House, with votes from some Democrats, passed a funding package that includes funding for the DHS, for the agency now responsible for not 1 but 2 murders of U.S. citizens in broad daylight. How complicit are the Democrats when it comes to stopping ICE? Because even now, people are very afraid of saying abolish ICE. It's seen as a very lefty, unpopular slogan, even though the polling shows a plurality of Americans now supports getting rid of ICE. What do you think Democrats should be campaigning on when it comes to ICE, DHS, all of these related issues?
Abolish ICE. Listen, let's be ourselves. Let's stand up for our values. When I see masked, balaclavaed gunmen shooting people in the streets, ripping kids from their families, this is not the America that I grew up in. This is not the America that my father at 18 years old fought for on Guadalcanal. This is not the America that my great-great-grandfather died for during the Civil War. We need to stand up for our values. We need to take back the flag, by the way, claim our own patriotism, and say what patriotic values really are.
Yes. And they've allowed, as you say, the Republican Party to claim to be the party of the Constitution of America, of patriotism, even as they burn down all of that stuff that we believe in.
Maybe one of the greatest desecrations ever, in my opinion. It's the only time I've ever felt not heartbroken that my dad wasn't still alive, was seeing people carrying an American flag with Donald Trump's face emblazoned on it and attacking the capital of this country. It was a desecration.
It really is a cult, and I don't think people say that enough. For people watching at home and they see someone like yourself, you're not a politician, you're not a traditional activist, you are someone known for your fiction and your writing and your novels. What drives you politically? What made you get involved in this public way, which now leads to you getting death threats?
Listen, when you write about the subjects that I write about, I write about immigration, I write about drug trafficking and addiction and the opioid epidemic and all those things. It drives you toward being political because of the things that you learn about it and the underlying things about mass imprisonment and all of that. And so you can't help but be political, can you, when you learn these things and when you write about these things?
And you've also said that you vow to keep speaking out against Trump and his quote-unquote corrupt administration, even with all these threats coming your way. In these dark times, what motivates you, Don, to keep speaking out? How do you keep hope alive? It's a question I've asked a lot of guests since January 20th, 2025.
Yeah, listen, it's easy to be pessimistic, isn't it? And it's easy to be in despair. And certainly I have those moments. You wake up, you read the headlines, you're angry, you're sad. I've said this before, pessimism, though, doesn't accomplish anything. It's a suicide pact. What are we supposed to do? Lay down on our sofas in a fetal position and let the country go to hell? Without being preachy about this, we have responsibilities. We have responsibilities. We have inherited a country that we should be passing on and not passing on some sort of fascist tin pot dictator, banana republic version of. And that is our responsibility, and that's what motivates me.
Before we finish, let's talk about your new book, The Final Score. You came out of retirement to write it. The one and only Stephen King hailed it as the best crime fiction he's read in 20 years. Congratulations. Talk to us about the book. What inspired you to get back into writing? Was it to get your mind off the miserable state of the real world?
No, listen, I took a hiatus to focus strictly on politics. I couldn't do both at the same time leading up to the election. Obviously, the election didn't go the way I wanted it to. And at that point, I was retired. But this book just kept talking to me. It just kept talking at me. The characters kept doing things and in my head, demanding to be written. I know how airy-fairy that sounds. I finally gave in and sat down and wrote it.
We have a lot of people on this show who have written books. Non-fiction books. We don't have so many novelists on there, not recently. So let me ask you this for our subscribers who are watching. A lot of young budding writers out there. What advice do you have for people who want to write fiction?
It sounds glib, but write. Writers write. Before it's a noun, it's a verb. But I also say do the doable. A lot of times people are going to say, particularly around this time of year, they're going to say, this year I'm going to write my novel. No, you're not. What you should be saying is, Tuesday I'll write 2 pages, or every day I'll write 2 pages or 3 pages, but whatever is doable for you, right? Practical for you, because people have jobs and families and obligations. So I always tell them, absolutely write, but set a reasonable goal. If you write a page or 2 a day, at the end of a year, you have a book.
That is great advice. The book is called The Final Score. Don Winslow, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Great to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications.
Let's strip this down to what it really is. Don Winslow isn't being threatened because he wrote fiction. He's being threatened because he challenged Donald Trump, loudly, consistently, and effectively. And when criticism turns into calls for kidnapping and assassination, that's not free speech culture. That's political intimidation. We've seen this pattern before. Trump downplays January 6th, he calls rioters very special, he mocks violence against opponents, and over time, that rhetoric creates permission structures. It tells the most extreme voices in the room that aggression is loyalty. That's how democratic backsliding works. Not overnight, not with tanks, but with fear, with smears, with the rewriting of reality, convincing people they didn't see what they saw, that political violence is staged, that threats are exaggerated. And here's the hard truth. If critics are scared into silence, democracy shrinks. If authors cancel appearances, if journalists need security, if citizens fear speaking out, then intimidation is working. This isn't about one novelist. It's about whether dissent remains protected in America. Authoritarian movements don't just want power. They want silence from anyone who questions it. And the moment we normalize threats as just politics, we cross a dangerous line. Because when the cost of telling the truth becomes personal safety, the real casualty isn't a book tour. It's democracy itself.